We are very pleased today to be doing an interview with the Chief Executive Officer of the Black United Fund of Oregon, and that is Dr. LM Alaiyo Foster. The name of our interview program is My Favorite Things, and what it's about is it comes right from the song, from the Sound of Music. And it's looking at how our favorite things are also the kinds of things that motivate us and create the kinds of person that we become. It's not just about whiskers on kittens. It's also about underrepresented young people going to college. It's about a world without systematic racism and oppression. And these are the kinds of things that, why we get up in the morning. This interview, what we'll be doing is, as we are interviewing, we have two artists who will be doing a portrait of Dr. Foster. And so this will be probably more of a sketch at this point, and then it'll be finished on their own. This whole interview process came out just because of the pandemic, because we have all these amazing artists, we have very interesting, dynamic people who are doing important things in our community, like Dr. Foster. And normally we would maybe sit down and talk in a different circumstances, but here we are on Zoom, and we make the best of it. So if my name is John Tepley, I'm the Executive Director of the Elisabeth Jones Art Center. If the artists could introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Leah Magdangal. And I am originally from San Francisco, but I'm living in Portland, have been for the last few years. I'm very excited about this opportunity, and to be painting Dr. Foster is an honor. Thank you.
Hi, this is Sean, and yeah, I came here back in 2012, and yes, thank you for the opportunity.
Good, good.
And I'm Inga Hazen. I'm the exhibitions director at the Elisabeth Jones Art Center.
Okay, Inga, why don't you start it off?
So we usually like to start these interviews just asking you to tell us a little bit about your organization, which is the Black United Fund of Oregon. What's your mission and your goals?
Okay, let's get it started. The Black United Fund of Oregon is a 37-year-old philanthropic organization here rooted in Portland, Oregon, serving Oregon and Southwest Washington. We have three primary pillars of programming at this point. Of course, our granting arm puts out grants to communities, programming in smaller nonprofits. And by smaller, by definition, that is a budget of $600,000 or less for operating expenses. We also work with post-secondary options. So students who are looking for trade access or collegiate access come to us for funds. We annually distribute just about $400,000 to $500,000 in scholarship awards through fundraised activities, as well as partnerships with local colleges and universities. Our third pillar is nonprofit mentorship. So we give grants to those smaller nonprofits, but we also mentor them. Our greatest success story is Meso. They started at Buff and have outgrown us, actually, which is beautiful and exactly what we want to see. So I think I covered everything in your question.
That's great. So how did you find yourself working for this organization? I know you're from Portland originally, but as am I. But yeah, tell me how you ended up there.
My relationship with Buff stems decades. I was a volunteer here as a child. I can remember being 10, running up and down the halls and staying out of adult conversations while my parents were here doing things. And so to be able to come full circle back as a college graduate, as Dr. Foster, being recruited to be the CEO of this organization was an honor. I have had an affinity for this organization for as long as I can remember. So it was really exciting when someone said, Buff is hiring. and I think you should apply, and hearing from the board committees and being told, yeah, because I was living in Texas at the time. And so being told that, yeah, it's time for you to come back to Portland. You need to come home. Hometown needs you. Um, it's an honor. It's a humbling honor to steward this iteration of the organization. And I am super excited about the things we've been able to accomplish in my 21 months to date, and the things we have on the horizon for the next few years. I'm really excited.
That's really amazing. Sean, do you think that you can mute your input there? It's
Oh yes, of course. Let me mute my voice real quick.
so. Dr. Foster, if I may, I would like to read an open letter that you have on your website. And I encourage everybody to go to the Black United Fund of Oregon website and check it out. It just shows like how significant we can do things, you know, for each other. So this is just a portion of an open letter. My heart and mind are roiled, the residue of long suppressed as well as real-time macro and microaggressions are agitated and things are murky. My soul, like many cities across the nation, is on fire. The recent murders of Ayanna Dior, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Tony McDade, Michael Johnson, Nina Pop, and Wilbon Woodard amplified the trauma of living while Black in America. Although strangers to me, we shared a kinship none but us can understand, growing and attempting to survive in a country founded on systematic and structural inequalities of endemic racism. Amidst the second viral pandemic, COVID-19 has disproportionately harmed us, Black, Indigenous, people of color, by people of color, and LGBTQIA2S and people. As a community servant leader, I am compelled to speak, take action, and also to demonstrate self-care and awareness to offer grace and love. My queer, female-identified, Black-skinned body is still shaking. How can this be 2020? How can I hold adequate space for not only my own, but others' loss, sadness, confusion, and rage? We have lived the entirety of our lives with systematic racism, oppression, and implicit biases permeating the fabric of the country and contaminating the air we breathe. We raise our children to understand injustice as a norm under the guise of their own survival. There are too many names, there are too many concessions asked and received. White supremacy is at its height. We are witnessing reductionism in its purest form. The increasing frequency with which Black lives are becoming reduced to a hashtag feels and is irreconcilable. When we finally break, the focus is on the destruction of property rather than life and lives lost. Wow, I mean, so can you, do you mind talking about some of the things that you address in this?
Not at all. Is there a specific thing you'd like to start with? I mean, it's a pretty
Yeah,
letter.
Well, I too have always found that it is interesting or sad that you know, something will happen and then somebody will break a window, you know. So yeah. all the attention goes to is this broken window or a trash can that's on fire, when you know, rather than the lives and the lost lives and the fear and the oppressive circumstances that has been created in this America.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to hear our president be talking about our national leader, regardless of your political affiliation, when national leadership is focused on buildings and using antiquated terminology to discuss, you know, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. The focus on property, the fact that historically people that look like me were property. It's hard to reconcile that as what we want to focus on. Not that these are human beings who are protesting, that protest, particularly nonviolent, non-destructive protest, is the voice and pathway for the disempowered to show. We can't really do much else. And then we're being chastised, and the we is the collective being chastised because we're angry and we're hurt. And like, what would you do in this position? And yet, at the same time that we frame and ask that question, the reality is that no one is in this position but us. And so there's no answer. It's almost rhetorical. Yes, it hurts my spirit that people are breaking things and damaging things because of what it does to the economic ecosystem for where they are. Those are jobs lost, that's revenue lost that could be flowing to social services. But at the same time, that revenue was present prior to, and they were still impoverished. And so I live a very both and experience of being highly educated and understanding the economics of it, but also understanding the pure raw of it. And being in leadership, I have to be very careful what I say, how I say it, because I not only represent myself, I represent an organization. And all of the people who are supporters of this organization, the 10-member board that I have, the staff that I have. When I speak, I'm not speaking just for myself, and I recognize that. So first, I want to thank you that I have this platform to address this. Thank you for reading that part of the letter, and even hearing you read it just kind of put me in a different headspace. And that's okay, that's fine. This is life right now, that we are choosing to focus on buildings. Instead of people. It just hurts, it's nonsensical to me.
And my disappointment also goes towards where, people are left with few options to show that that there needs to be change, that it's not right, and to be called by, I don't even like saying his name, quite frankly, number 45, to be characterized as thugs. It's just like jaw dropping, and it's not right.
I feel like with your organization, there's a really strong focus on education and supporting the youth locally to bring to the communities that have been pushed aside for so long. So you have youth education and mentoring and college prep and scholarship programs. And right now with the coronavirus, keeping students out of school, it's a really challenging time because they're stuck at home, and then the BIPOC communities being disproportionately affected by the virus on top of just the severe effects of systemic racism that were already impeding their ability to find academic success and to access the resources that everyone should have access to. So during this, movement in so many ways, despite the struggle that comes with the virus. How do you reach out to those students? How do we support them as young people, as Oregonians, and how do we give them the resources they need, either us just as, you know, people who live here, as your organization? What do we do?
Um, so I can speak for what Buff is doing first, 'cause I believe that was part of your question,
Yes.
and then what other people can do.
Yeah, like legislatively, as a government body on a statewide level, how do we support these students to get them the resources and the education that they need and deserve?
So in terms of Buff, we turn our donations into scholarships. We work with corporate partners. We work with community partners. You know, people are able to donate and designate, I want this to go to a scholarship, or I want this to go to a scholarship writing workshop, or I want this to go to career readiness. I want this to be designated for mentoring. So there are different ways that folks are able to financially donate. And for a lot of people who don't have time, but they have money, that's what we get from them. I frequently tell my board I appreciate their time, their talent, and their treasure, because those are the ways people can be involved. You don't have to give money to be involved. It is time. Perhaps you have skills and you want to be a mentor. Perhaps you want to give a workshop and talk about, we had someone recently, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. I'm blanking on the name of the organization. The company, they raffled a table and the proceeds went to Buff, but they also want to be a site for um, what we call Buff Talks, where we take our students to work sites and have them explore careers that maybe they weren't aware of. I'm sure all of us grew up, I'm looking at the faces and trying to gauge some ages here, but we've all heard, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? A nurse, a doctor, you know, a policeman, a firefighter. But there are so many other positions out there, particularly positions that BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, LGBTQ plus people of color don't necessarily see themselves in because they haven't even heard of them. So to be able to say I'm a CEO of the only Black philanthropic foundation in Oregon is huge, right? First of all, why is there only one? And that's fine, you know, Oregon is Oregon. But putting out options for students to see themselves far beyond what I call the status quo jobs. Being a teacher, I grew up loving education. I am proud to be in an organization that focuses on that as an access point because it is critical. The intersectionality of education to every other facet of your life is cannot be understated. We just live in a time when you're viewed by your credentials, your worth is, you know, socially kind of set by what your title is. People meet you and, you know, within 2 minutes, they have decided if you're worth their time based on, well, where'd you go to school? What do you do? Right? And so I have the liberty of walking into a space and being not only a CEO, but a doctor, Dr. Foster. That means something in spaces. And as much as I personally cringe, because I just like, you know, I did that for professional purposes, but when I'm at home, I'm just mom. I'm just a daughter. I'm just a mother, and I mean, a sister and a mother and an aunt. And I don't want to ever forget that. So it's a humbling thing for me every time I have to discuss Dr. Foster. But it's also a leverage, access I get to leverage on behalf of my community because I am invited places I wouldn't be if I was just Alaiyo. So making sure that the youth of my community have the possibility of being able to access that same leverage and create those spaces. yeah, I'm all for education, but I'm also realistic in knowing that college is not for everyone. And I am a career student, as they say. I have 5 degrees because I love learning. I'm a teacher, I'm a professor, um, I've been a school counselor. You know, that's my path. And in my path, I have seen students struggle to even sit still in our current classroom setting, the way we have what we call banker model, banker method of education. Sit down, I'm the teacher, I'm at the front of the room, I know everything, I'm gonna open up your brain and pour it all in, and I want you to regurgitate it back to me. That is not learning. And so what I want and what Buff works for is to create opportunities so that students are actually able to operate with critical engagement and see what's going on in the world, ask questions, be creative, um, and take it from there. Because these students, all of them, even the ones who don't want to go to college, even the ones who may end up dropping out, quite frankly, um, they're in a system, and we understand that that system is not for them. And the educational system of this country was never designed for our benefit. So when we talk about systemic failure, we're using language that doesn't match. The system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It was never designed to educate Black and brown children, and so it is not. Um, and so what we have to talk about then is a systemic shift of epic proportions, and everyone gets caught up on that conversation because it's a huge question. How do you start over? Can you start over? You know, so you see these movements for charter schools and private schools and homeschooling and all of those things come about when you talk about BIPOC children, because the system isn't designed for us.
Could you talk a little bit about your story? Like when did you actually see the idea that you could be Dr. Foster?
The idea that I could be and would be Dr. Foster was always, because my parents, you know, made that environment. I am fortunate I was able to attend private school from elementary through 8th grade until I begged not to. I went to parochial school from kindergarten through 8th grade, typically one of 8 Black children in the entire school. And so you learn quickly who's your friend, who's not. Even when teachers would tell me I couldn't, I would take that home and be filled back up by my parents. So I learned to respect teachers because they had knowledge I did not yet have. But I also learned when I could be dismissive of them and their lack of believing in me. I remember in 4th grade, I was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, and my teacher snatched it from me and told me it was not age appropriate. And I snatched it back and said, my father gave me this book and I'm reading it because I have an assignment at home that I have to do. So it was never just do your schoolwork. It was always like, even before I was anywhere near able to vote, what do you think about the candidates? Who would you vote for if you could? Why? Think critically about what's going on in the world around you so that when you are of age, you can be a contributing member of society. And fun caveat, I was pre-med in high school. I went to Benson Polytechnic. I was supposed to be a medical doctor. And I promised my dad on his deathbed, he passed away my senior year of high school, that I would become a doctor. And then I went on to college and was pre-med all over again from that 4-year torture. And I decided, this is for the birds. I don't want to be in medicine anymore. I uttered something about being a doctor in the 3rd grade. I wanted to be an OBGYN, and miraculously, my mother found me a Black female OBGYN mentor. And so from 3rd through 12th grade, I was immersed in medicine. and I just burnt out. I was like, by the time it got time to really do it, I couldn't do it anymore. But I am Dr. Foster because I was like, I'm my father's smart aleck child. And I was like, so I made this deathbed promise. How can I fulfill that? Well, as long as they call me Dr. Foster, I'm still a doctor. So I decided that education was the way to do that in a different path. And I got out of the sciences and went into the social sciences when I fell in love with teaching and mentoring students. And so I have been an alternative school teacher, counselor, tutor, administrative assistant. I've been in all of it. And along the way, I always was going to school. I won't say aimlessly. I will say, although I had wonderful guidance counselors, I think the age I was and the years and where we were in society of my being advised, there was still this construction and concept that I wouldn't really be able to do it. And so let me advise her into a safer degree. And so I have a bachelor's in sociology. I have a bachelor's in Black studies. I have a master's in education. And I have a master's in nonprofit management. All of which, to be honest with you, a part of my journey was to figure out what it meant to be litigious. Because at every juncture, every one of those degrees, I had to threaten to sue my school to graduate for some thing they came up with about why I wasn't going to graduate.
Like what? Like what, for example?
You don't have that, you missed this class, you didn't do this. And I'm like, we don't have it in our records. And I'm like, that's okay. Let me pull out my binder, my 3-inch binder with every transcript that I have ever had. Like, I have watched people bump up against the system and fail so many times that I learned like paper trail is everything. And so it would be that. My first bachelor's, I majored in psychology. I, however, had some concepts that rubbed the department chair the wrong way. And he told me to my face I would never get a degree in psychology as long as he was the chair. So I switched to sociology because instead of studying the mind of a person, I will study the mind of society. Okay, cool. So being able to pivot, I give that credit to my parents very much. So my family, the people around me who made me resilient and able to think through a challenge rather than be defeated by it. But there was no crystal stair to this path of Dr. Foster. Even my doctoral degree, especially my doctoral degree, Lord, the stories, the trauma, but the ambition and the determination were stronger than the trauma.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The promise was stronger. I was raised to keep my word, and I had to figure out a way to do it. And so tears, blood, sweat, and tears is something we joke about. You know, I put my blood, sweat, and tears to it. People say that. I literally put blood, sweat, and tears into being Dr. Foster, and it is one of my proudest things, but it is also one of my most traumatizing things. And so if I can ever help a student get through that without the trauma, then that's a goal for me.
Well, let's see what the artists are doing. So what this is just like the beginning sketches, you know, because all we had is a half hour here, and let's see what you've been up to.
I love it.
Yeah, beautiful.
Give me a
John,
second.
you can go first.
Yeah, so that's what, how can I switch the camera? Here it is.
Ah,
It's a beginning process.
Love that too.
Yeah, Sean does some very beautiful drawings, and you know, things will change, and then let's see the other. Oh yeah,
So far.
yeah. So that's a really nice start.
This is such an
It's
honor.
a beautiful, beautiful face.
Thank you. It's such
I mean, it takes time, so looks big.
Yeah. Oh, that looks cool.
No, that's
Yeah,
not cool. Take time. Give me another 30 more minutes. It'll look way better than this.
when this is complete, I will have images of the final portraits, and I'll also link in the description the Black United Fund of Oregon, so people can support you financially with their time any way that they can,
awesome.
and that they can learn more about everything that you're doing and what's next for your organization and for you as a person who is just beyond inspirational and really it's been such a pleasure to talk to you.
It's my honor. I'm so humble. Thank you.
No, it
Really
has been.
appreciate you taking
Appreciate
the time out of your day to do it. I know you said how busy you are working 7 days a week, so it means a lot
Oh,
that you took, a little time out of your day to even talk to us and participate in this.
this
We're
is
very
awesome.
honored.
Beautiful. I watched the sample video you sent me. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be so much fun.
We have so many more. I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
more coming. I just need to sit down and edit. So,
It's beautiful that you guys are doing this. And I want to say thank you on behalf of our organization for giving us the opportunity to be spotlighted. It's amazing work. I have an awesome team. I can't thank them enough. It is definitely not, I am not in some ivory tower in this chair. I could not do this work without my board and my staff. They are amazing. And our volunteers, of course, are just so amazing.
Well, thank you, Dr. Foster, and it has been an honor and a privilege, and from all of us, we look forward to to watching what you do and helping your organization do the important work that needs to be done. That's so critical. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
And until the next interview, bye for now.